All right, so let's move to team number 2. That is blue, and they happen to be the data mongols. I have no idea what they have in store for us. It's time for you to do your presentation. I'm calling all of you to come over right now. Are you ready? Are you going to be the only one doing the presentation? Okay. Come again. She's going to introduce you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Iraja Christodel, a member of the Data Mongols. We would like to share 3 insights on the 2021 population census. So, introducing the blue team.
We as the data moguls, after we analyzed the 2021 population data, we came to the observation that there seems to be no housing issue in Ghana. Is that really the case? Do we know that household sizes have decreased since 2010? A household size refers to the number of people living in a particular household or unit. What could be the possible reasons for this decline? Our analysis also showed that Greater Accra is choked, and I mean it is really choked. This is a fact not just presented by the statistical reports, but then every one of us here can attest to that. So, is there a possibility that any of us would like to move from the Greater Accra to probably the Northern or Savannah region? Stay with us as we deliberate on these issues.
I don't mind living in Accra, but then, is there no real housing issue in Ghana?
Comparing Ghana to countries like New Zealand, Canada, and Sweden, we might come to the conclusion that Ghana does not have a housing issue. While these countries have high waiting lists for public housing, looking at our dashboard, 97.6% of Ghanaians live in houses and 2.74% on the streets. Our chart here shows the percentages for households and non-households. The yellow part of the bars represents the population percent of Ghanaians in non-households, and the blue part represents the percentage of Ghanaians in houses. 2.4% might seem like a very small proportion of the Ghanaian population, but equates to approximately 750,000 Ghanaians on the streets. Are we really going to ignore these people on the streets?
These 744,000 people cannot be overlooked. These people are exposed to danger in the community like abuse, violence, drug addicts, and they are also denied access to education and healthcare. I strongly believe that this cannot be overlooked, but then how can it be resolved?
It's highly likely that the 750 non-household populations do not have the purchasing power to afford any form of housing facility. This is because the daily average minimum wage for a Ghanaian is 13 cedis, and it is no match for the monthly rent of 350 cedis. It is therefore important that these people are empowered by creating more job opportunities so that they would at least have an intense roof over their heads.
Have you considered Airbnb or communal living? What do I mean by Airbnb? Airbnb is where you rent out a vacant room in your house to other individuals. Or communal living, where a group of people come together with the sole purpose of sharing the rent cost. Also, we can also look at adapting the African way of building, that is using smeared earth or going in for building with bamboos or wood. Again, investors can invest in buildings or look at researching into less expensive materials or sustainable materials like that of Nelson Barton, who uses plastic waste that he calls plastic bricks in building, and also an initiative by Akimbo, who uses raffia wood in building.
So does that mean these 30 million people live in gardens?
Of course not. These people could be living in kiosks, they could be living in metal containers, they could be living in wooden structures, or even living in good for housing facilities such as mansions. From our dashboard over here, we can see that you can see the general decline for all the housing sizes per region. So the blue bar represents 2010 housing size, while the yellow bar represents the 2021 housing size. Then from our KPI over there, we can see 1.0, which is the average decline in a household, meaning that at least one person in a large household moves to a smaller unit. This can be attributed to the fact that these people are always in a quest, our generation is always in a quest for freedom and privacy. So as such, they move from these large household units into the smaller household units, which would then increase the cost and pricing of the housing facilities, which will lead to the housing issue in Ghana. Now I agree with the solution Beatrice presented that says that we are going to promote the old African communal living, which will help improve the housing problem, as well as give these people the privacy and the freedom they so much desire. But then again, if these people are moving from these large household units into the smaller household units, how are they going to provide for themselves? It means that they are going to move to regions where they presume have greener pastures, which is Greater Accra. What then will be the impact on Greater Accra?
So from the chart, we can see that Greater Accra has a high intensity. But then what the population density is the number of people divided by the land area size. Now, as Princess said, as these people from their home regions to Greater Accra in search of greener pastures, which we all know that Greater Accra is the economic hub of Ghana. And looking from this map, we can see that the population for Ashanti region and Greater Accra region is very close. But then the land area for Ashanti region is bigger than that of Greater Accra region, which is causing the high density in Greater Accra region. Hence, we can conclude that Accra is really true.
Yes, Accra is really true. Yes, Accra is really true because, as Princess mentioned earlier on, if people are moving from other regions into the Greater Accra region, they are coming to compete with the few and expensive houses in the region. And because they cannot afford these houses, they tend to set up these kiosks, metal containers, and wooden structures. That is why Greater Accra region has these high numbers of such structures, leading to the development of slums in the region. Do we know that Greater Accra region has 11 slums out of 23 slums in the whole country? This is very serious. So I think that in order to deal with this situation, investors should channel their investments from the Greater Accra region to the other regions by setting up businesses, so that people will move from the Greater Accra region to the other regions to reduce the pressure in the region. This is going to help them tax-wise, because setting up businesses, especially manufacturing industries, in any other regional capital apart from Accra and Tema, has a tax incentive of 18.75%, which is quite lower than the 25% that is being taxed on industries in Accra and Tema. It's going to help them increase their profits as well. Another Another thing that could be done is that policymakers should help in setting up plans to develop other regions, so that the development of Greater Accra becomes equal to the other regions. So that people do not move to the Greater Accra just because they want to be part of a well-developed region or just want to have fun.
Looking at all that we have discussed so far, we can conclude that Ghana has a housing issue because 30 million people are in houses and the marginal 2.4, that is about 750,000 people are in non-household. So can we say we are ignoring these people in non-household? Because the 30,000, out of that 30,000, we have people in kiosks, in metal structures, and in containers. So my colleague, Princess mentioned that we could improve the standard of living by increasing their purchasing power. And also, we can also adapt to the African way of building. We then move ahead to talk about population density. That Accra is true. And Accra has a lot of people moving to Greater Accra in search of greener pastures. They also mentioned that we could have tax incentives so people can be influenced to stay in Accra. Also, we could develop Accra with better social, we could develop other regions with social amenities like better education and healthcare, so people are influenced to stay in their regions. Before I take my seat, I'll leave us with 3 questions. Are you ready or willing to engage in Airbnb or communal living? Would you migrate to other regions? And finally, looking at the population density, would you migrate to other regions? And also, would you invest or purchase a house built of plastic bricks or smeared earth? All this depends on us as individuals if you want to accept these policies and take it up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the breaking news is Accra is really choked. Oh, you don't believe it?
We know.
Accra is definitely choked.
We know.
But you and I, we are breathing fine over here. You're breathing fine. All right, so Team Blue, a round of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when they started, I thought I was watching BBC News. Yeah, well coordinated. I like that. A round of applause again. All right, so I'm going to move to my judges, and I'm so sure that as much as they are aware that Accra is really choked, they have questions that will choke our Team Blue. Right.
That Accra is choked. It means that some of us have to start looking at moving or outside of Accra. Oh yes, that would actually be a very good question. It's fresher air, less traffic, less pollution. Yeah. So what is your thought about, I think Nigeria moved the capital from Lagos to Abuja, right? Based on what is your take on that? Did it come to mind? Did you consider the possibility? I just want to get your perspective on Ghana moving the capital from Accra to another region, and just throwing it there, where would you suggest, and what would be your reasons?
That is something that came up, but then again, it's the human being's mindset. It's what we want to do, or what influence. It's not about Greater Accra being called Greater Accra. It's the fact that there are better amenities here. There are better buildings, or let me say, social amenities like water, education, and roads. That leads people here. They are looking for greener pastures. It's not about here being called the capital town. So if we move the capital to, let's say, Cape Coast, and then people are not
investing in Cape Coast, then it's null and void.
That's it.
Looking as patients compare Ashanti region to Greater Accra, the population is quite similar. It's almost the same in both regions. Ashanti region had the capital city before it was moved to Accra. Ashanti region had the capital city before it was moved to Accra. So it could be moved back, such that as it's moved back to Ashanti region, people can move to places like the Savannah region, which is quite close to the Ashanti region, and then has a very, very low population density in the Savannah region. So as the capital is moved to the Ashanti region, the surroundings of Ashanti region will also be quite populated than when it is in Accra. Because even though the population in Accra is very high, people are not really moving to the other regions. Comparing the figure for Western region and Central region to Accra, 5 million people in Accra, but just 2 million in the other regions surrounding Accra. If it is moved to Ashanti region, the 650,000 people in the Savannah region will increase. The 1,311,000 people in the Northern region will definitely increase because it is still surrounding the Ashanti region. So then it would be a plausible idea to move it. But as Beatrice said, would the Ghanaians want to move? Thank you very much.
I wanted to comment on your presentation. Even with your explanation now, I see this just like I don't know really how different it is from a regular PowerPoint, because I don't see any dynamism here. When you were trying to explain, I don't know if there were buttons you could have just thrown instead of moving from sheet to sheet. If maybe on your summary page or whatnot, there were buttons you could have just clicked to change the figures or to zoom into the figures or the things you were actually looking for. I would have loved to see that. And finally, last but not least, you mentioned that 97, when you asked if with all the 97.6 people were living in good homes, yes, I would have loved to see the respective proportions. You said, you indicated that no, not all of us were living in good homes. So I would have wanted to see the percentage of those living in good, so that it may, we may not necessarily only be concentrated on the 2.4 people, but there would be a lot more within the 97.6 people who equally form part of the whole deficit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, from my side, I did enjoy the presentation. I like the way you all engaged and told the stories you went through. I enjoyed the interactivity of your presentation. It was good. It kept me awake, especially with the lights off. You know, they say that if you want to stimulate work and get the best out of people, you have to have lights on. Is there one of these, is it Maslow, one of these experiments, right, where they kept the lights on in the factory and the productivity was a lot higher? Yeah. I tend to start drifting when the lights go down, so I want to charge up for it. Okay, so very good presentation. One thing that did cross my mind was, you know, with data, there are various qualities, and I'm sure you've come across the qualities of data in terms of, is it verified, is it validated, all of those things. And as I heard all of you speak, one thing that crossed my mind was how this data you are presenting to us, how valid is it in terms of the collection process? You know, you have Yvonne, you keep talking about thinking thrice. Thinking thrice is in his version of the truth, her version of the truth, and the truth itself. You know, and what I would have liked to have seen, not necessarily here, in fact, I think it applies to everybody, is the guys who compile this data that we take and start using and propagating and forming decisions on, how valid is it? Has it been verified? The guy that came to my house who couldn't gain access, what does he actually really write down in terms of his experience coming to visit my house? You know, those are some of the things that, as technologists, I think we should start looking at. Less reliance on manual processing to come up with these types of dynamic things that we then base our policies and our futures on. You know, I think we need to start collating data in a much more seamless way, a much more effective way. And I'd just like to, as I was coming in this morning, I had a little thought about the Ghana card, you know, and how useful it is for being able to identify who we are as Ghanaians. And there's so much in that Ghana card that when you focus on it, it's endless. Now, one thing I did want to say was that some of the reasons the Ghana card was not valid in the beginning was that they couldn't quite prove. This was the back to this example of data validation or data verification. They couldn't quite prove where you lived. So yes, we talk about putting a digital address down, but I could pick that digital address from absolutely anywhere and put it down as my address. So all of a sudden, I'm able to go and open a bank account without really validating where I live. So when we're looking at data and the ramifications and implications of it, we just need to take a step back and just think about the sources, the validity and the accuracy of that data. And just to summarize this thing about Ghana card, a smart technological way of addressing that issue of is it really where I live, is to say, well, you know what, we're going to use geolocation data to say, look, for the past 30 days, what kind of signals have we been getting from you as an individual for where you live or where you spent most of your time from, let's say, 8 in the evening till 6 o'clock the following morning. And if for 20 out of the 30 days you were in that same position, that would be a very strong determinant of where I live. And it's that type of technological thinking, forward thinking, that we need to start looking at in compiling this type of data. That's my solution.
This is really a very deep thinking and forward-looking thoughts.
Yes.
It's a way to go to make the country a better place. And I always say this, when we travel outside, we so appreciate what we see there. But the fundamentals of getting things done the way they've done, when we come back home, we don't want it. We castigated this Ghana card thing so much so that people started thinking it's an exploitation. But you see, just a little economics, which may relate to what happens here. As he's saying, people can stand somewhere and just pick a signal about the assassin, whatever, or the...
You go ahead.
Or the Ghana Post thing, and pick a certain information and register it on the platform as their resident, and that's it, they're good to go. But like you say, if you walk into the bank and the bank's not in those digits, they should be able to just throw it out and tell you that this place is the forest, not the resident. And quickly your account will not be open. But we don't have it. So like you're saying, I stand somewhere in front of the Legon Hall, pick the signal, I'm gone. Back to that, when
one thing that caught my attention was the flow of your presentation. We all have sides that the way we look at things. Now, there was one thing that we were trying to get in the first earlier presentation, we're learning here, like we're doing, this is also a part of the learning process. The dynamics, as my sister just said, we're looking at a situation where you could all get my attention the more with a click of buttons. We didn't see that, so maybe as you continue beyond here and you learn, we could see some of those things. Not the button that you press. There are certain buttons that, what's the name? Sliders. Good, you couldn't do it. But then, on the flip side of it too, I'll share with my sister that I like the flow and the simplicity of how the whole thing was being done. So then we're asking ourselves, is it the presentation as in one screen with all the sliders, or as it flows like this to tell the story and bring out the information? And one thing for me I took away from your presentation was that in the information that was presented in the census report, these images and a bit of the stories that you said about it gave me additional information. So even if I don't pick the whole 300 and something pages to read, I have a sense of what our population is telling us from just the 7 pages. And I can sit somewhere and talk to somebody as if I've read the whole 400 pages. Even by just trying to imagine certain things and then put some of the numbers there. And that's a class for you guys. Another thing which it's not about what you have done here, but then it's about how you guys went about the presentation. The boldness, and then the flair in which you guys exchange is where you know who stops or who comes in and all that. This is a marketing tool. Assuming you guys are here to present to we investors, how you go about it, how you deliver it, and all those things. And your confidence level about even as you were wrong, we can't tell. She only gave you out at a certain point. But see, when you find yourself in such a situation, I'm only just sharing life skill. Keep focused and just keep going. And that's why you have teamwork. Once you see she's caught up in that thing, that is where you guys need to come in. In workplaces, as you move out to the world, as you work in teams, these are little skills that you can learn when you tell an employer that you're a team player. This is where you need to show it. So, congrats.
Congrats to Team Blue. And just so you all know that we have a live feed allowing people from the UK to watch everything we are doing here. So let's just all say hello to UK, our friends and loved ones over there. Hello, we're streaming live and we are glad that you're watching what is going on. Congratulations to each and every one of you. But I always remember you with the fact that Accra is really choking. I mean, God have you.